Good morning, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Still quite a few people getting settled in, so we'll give them a few minutes and get started here in a minute or two. Thanks. Hi again to those that are just joining. Still quite a few getting settled in here, so we'll probably get started in the next minute or so. So just sit tight and we'll be getting going in a few minutes. All right, well, it looks like we've got a good group, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeremy Stinson. I'm SVP of Marketing here at Indico Data, and I will be your host for today's session. Thank you for taking the time to join us for what we feel like is a very exciting moment at Indico. This is more than just a product release. It's really a shift in how we think about decision automation in insurance. And today we're introducing the Agentic Decisioning Platform. It's a platform purpose-built to bring AI-powered autonomy to underwriting, claims, and really every decision-intensive process within insurance. We've built this in response to real-world friction that we continue to hear from carriers, too much manual work, too little visibility, and not enough trust in the data needed to make confident decisions. And we believe we've built something that finally solves that. So, a bit of housekeeping before we get started. The webinar will be recorded and we'll send the replay out within 24 hours. All attendees are currently muted, but we do want this to be interactive, so please ask questions in the Q&A panel and we'll answer them as we go. We will have time at the end to answer as many questions as we can live. And again, please don't hold back. We do love the hard questions. Next, we'll introduce today's speakers and walk through the agenda. From an agenda perspective, we'll start by talking through the why behind the launch, a quick look at the market trends and customer needs that made it clear the old way of automation wasn't cutting it anymore. We'll then move into what's new and different about the Agentic Decisioning Platform. After that, you'll see the product in action with a live demonstration. And finally, we'll wrap up with some live Q&A. Joining me today is Tom Wild. Tom is our CEO who spent the past year really on the road talking to leaders at every major carrier and helping shape the industry's view on what comes after legacy automation, what comes after IDP. And Nick Cassis, our VP of Engineering and Products, will take us under the hood and walk through the real innovation powering our Agentic Decisioning Platform. So with that being said, I'll hand it over to Tom.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, so as Jeremy laid out in the introduction here, the critical question with any major product release is always the why. Nick's going to take you through a lot of the what and the how here, which is important to capturing that value, but we wanted to start with the why. So if you go to the next slide, this is really a strategic inflection point driven by a few factors here. So on the far left, market pressures mounting. So we are on sort of the year 7 or 8 of a hard market dynamic. In the hard market dynamic, you've got carriers who are able to to give price rather than take price, and you have an era of strong profitability. As we move towards a soft market, and typically these trends are on a 7 to 10 year cycle, as we go to a soft market, things will get more competitive, and that means that the brokers will probably more aggressively shop price, which means that the number of submissions you deal with is actually going to go up, which is going to put more pressure on the underwriting function. and also your ability to select the right risk is going to become even more critical. So that volume increase as well as the complexity increase in, whether it's social engineering on the both underwriting and claims side, or just the complexity of cat risk and other things that are happening globally, your ability to sort through that and make good decisions around risk are going to be critical. And of course, unprecedented technology adoption, unprecedented technology pace of change. How do you adopt these things so that you can use them as a competitive advantage in the market? And importantly, how do you make sure that you're not going to be sort of the victim of adverse selection if you're not using these technologies and your competitors are? They're going to get to the better risks faster, and that's going to put you in a tough position. So this is a critical set of inflection points driving this decision. Next slide. So when we think about enterprise decisioning broadly and specifically in the insurance landscape, there's really a need for a new architecture to address that strategic inflection point that we're all experiencing there. Historically, OCR and IDP, rules-based automation, RPA, these were technologies from the last decade. And what we found is that they were very expensive to put in place and difficult to maintain, and didn't really contribute much to the actual decisioning. Now Gen AI has arrived 2 to 3 years ago, really a seismic shift in how computers and artificial intelligence are able to understand unstructured data. And of course, unstructured data is the lion's share of what insurers deal with on the underwriting and claims side. But Gen AI has big challenges around black box, explainability, hallucination. So how do you adapt and adopt that technology to your needs? Now we've entered the agentic decision era. Purpose-built, for underwriting and claims when it comes to Indico. Vertical AI, of course, has become the most popular approach to making trustworthy and scalable AI. Always human in the loop when you're talking about agentic. You have to have the ability to evaluate these decisions, tune them, and correct them when they make mistakes, because they will at times make mistakes. And then, of course, how do you orchestrate this at scale across use cases, across lines of business? So this is where we are, the agentic decision era now. Next slide. So what are the elements of this agentic decision era? So everybody has made massive investments in data historically. Good data is as valuable then as it is now. So it's a critical building block for a successful AI strategy. But data alone is not enough. You really are trying to get to decisions. A lot of companies have asked, what have we gotten for all this massive investment in data? We really wanted to yield faster, better decisioning, and we haven't seen that yet. So this new challenge of how do you build enterprise decisioning speed into the landscape is really where agentic AI comes in. And that mindset allows us to now, for the first time, really build enterprise decisioning at scale with high fidelity and with trustworthiness. Next slide. The way to attack this is to really think about your decisions. And let's be honest, when it comes to insurance companies are in the business of making good decisions. Should I underwrite this risk? How should I price this risk? Should I adjudicate this claim? How does it relate to my policy in force and my policy guidelines? Think about this as a decision supply chain, much like in the physical world where hard goods are made increasingly with total transparency across every element of the supply chain from raw material to finished good. It's helpful to think about your decisions this way too. You have your raw material, your first party, second party, third party data. You have unstructured data, semi-structured data, structured data. And that data then goes through these steps to get to a high quality decision, whether it's a quote or a bind or a successful claim adjudication. How do you ingest, extract, validate, augment? Context engineering is really critical. How does this risk relate to my underwriting guidelines? How does it relate to my underwriting authority? How does it relate to the policy in force? And of course, then your ultimate decision. And critically, is it explainable, right? Is it transparent? And being able to trap all of that for audit purposes, every step of this process, and being able to not only save that so you can improve and tune the process, but also to meet an increasingly intense regulatory environment. If you look across the United States and in Europe especially, AI regulations now popping up all over with good reason. Next slide. So we want to introduce the Indico Agentic Decisioning Platform this morning. This is a breakthrough platform specifically designed for the insurance space. Next slide. So the Agentic Decisioning Platform really has two halves. And the Indico tagline is better data, better decisions. And we see those as the two halves of the equation here to get to scaled agentic decisioning that's trustworthy and high fidelity. We've talked a lot about better data. Indico's founding was all built on the notion of turning unstructured and semi-structured data into high quality structured data. Again, data drives everything. It's very much a raw material in, decision out metaphor here. So your ability to create high quality data from unstructured data sources, which Nick's going to walk through in great detail, is critical here. On the workspaces side, better decisions. So this is where the Indico agentic framework comes into play. How do you take that data and reliably and scalably make high quality decisions around that, increasingly using automation so that you can make sure that you're leveraging your most precious resource, your most constrained resource, which is typically your underwriters and your claims adjusters. Next slide. Great. Well, that's the why section of our presentation here. I'm going to hand it over to Nick Cassis, our head of product and engineering, to take you through the how.
Yeah, so we'll talk about kind of the platform and how it's structured. So from the base layer, our platform provides a set of tools that allow you to create agents and configure them. Some of them pre-configured. You can use our gallery, for example, and our builder tools to edit them, to modify them in order to create kind of individual task-driven agents that help you solve very specific problems. Our approach is to provide you with kind of like an easy way to create a like an agent that solves a sub portion of the problem and kind of help you test and iterate on that individual section of the problem in order to then build up the entire solution using workflows and kind of an orchestration layer. Above this, we need to provide a way for users to interact with the system, kind of trigger events, change data, or review what's been produced by these agents. That's where our works come in. Our workspace gives you like a customized use case specific view of the data that we generate through our agents, and those are embeddable. They can be used in other contexts. So if you're, we hear a lot of people talk about the single pane of glass and wanting to have everything flow to a single place. We're able to provide this functionality as part of our workspace into their environments. And above this all, we need to monitor, we have some businesses that want to monitor the overall flow of data that goes through the system, understand the kind of opportunities that you're seeing, being able to drill down on how individual teams are doing. So that's where our analytics piece comes in and provides kind of that functionality. So we'll go and kind of look at each layer independently here. So next time. So as I said, like looking from the top down, so our analytics dashboard is directed towards our business leader persona, kind of making sure that they get to see and drill down on the flow of data that's going through the system. So all, for example, in underwriting, all the submissions that might flow in, how much, the value of that pipeline that's kind of going in, at the stages that it's at, and being able to drill down on individual components. So giving them a full picture of what's going on in the system so they can kind of track and adjust strategically. Next slide.
And Nick, I would just add to that, this is part of the critical piece of explainability and the analytics and telemetry you need to be able to safely and scalably deploy agentic AI.
Then for kind of the middle layer of our platform, talk about workspaces. Those are directed towards your end users in your business. So think of it as your triage team that needs to look at and prioritize submissions that are coming in, or look at claims and make sure that they have all the necessary information with them. So they're able to triage, prioritize, they can review these individual ones to make sure they're complete, they're in good order, they have all the information necessary to go to the next step. The system also helps them figure out what's missing, what they need to look at, the next steps that they need to take. They can also kind of deep dive into each individual opportunity, interrogate them, look at the individual pieces of data there, ask them questions, find out if there's more information that may have been missed initially, and kind of dig through and make sure there's nothing hidden in some specific form somewhere where someone was trying to be sneaky. And then finally, everything that's done in the system needs to be tracked so that you have some audit trail ability to tell how things are going. So these workspaces we have several of them. They're targeted towards specific use cases. We also have some generic ones. All of those can be used within your single pane of glass or other system if you want, or individually directly from Indico. Next slide. And then talking about the agents. So our approach to the problem is to break down the overall solution into specific testable chunks. So for example, the ability to classify documents and kind of identify the type of documents that may come in an email. You may want to also then extract that information from them, get specific fields out of it. You may want to summarize the overall email or look for key risks, so like ask Q&A questions that are filled in. Validation comes in as well, making sure that all the information that are coming through fits certain structure, fits certain parameters and limits and other like function that you need. So as you kind of build up all these individual parts, you can test them individually and then combine them together in what we call the workflow. And then our workspaces interact with those workflows to trigger operations or respond when new items come in through a workflow from an external source. Okay, and I think the next slide is demo. Oh, sorry, and then just talking about our kind of our builder tool. So to be able to create these agents, you need kind of some tooling. The first step is we don't want you to start from scratch. So we provide some pre-configured options for you. So when we talk about being built for insurance, what we really mean is we put in the time to really understand the problems of insurance, kind of breaking them down and then creating some agents that already solve some portion of your problem. At the same time, no solution will be kind of perfect for everyone. You have to be able to customize this so every single one of them can be edited. That's where our agent builder comes in. You can modify these agents to fit your needs, tune them to your particular data, kind of adapt them and make sure they work, test them on your data and make sure that you're getting the right accuracy and performance that you're looking for. And then finally organize them into an orchestrated process using the workflow canvas. Okay. So shift to the demo. Okay, so like we're gonna start from, this is not my inbox, I'm showing you kind of a graphic example, but I want to show you the flow from what for example, a broker and an underwriter would see, kind of their interaction, all the way into the systems and the workspaces, and then we'll finally kind of go look at how we put this all together and do an example of building an agent. So to start with, the most simple, the system can monitor, for example, an inbox that receives emails. In this case, I created an inbox just for this demo, where we're going to send an application. We have 2 documents that we're going to be showing. So show the preview here, but we have an SOV document and a application form that we're going to send in. And the system will be monitoring kind of like where those been on this inbox and being able to pull them in as they come in. So kind of in an agentic way, there's an agent that's monitoring the actual flow documents. And while that makes its way through the internet, we're going to kind of go look at where this would land once it's done. So you have, this is one of our workspaces. This is our triage workspace. This workspace is directed towards underwriting. So looking at applications for or submission for policies. And the system kind of gives you like a view of all of the incoming information that's coming in and gets you to be able to route to the individual groups you want. So in the case of, so in this list right now, we can see some key information name insured, broker that send the actual submission, but also some key columns such as risk appetite, in good order, and priority that let you kind of tell the type of risk that is being sent over. So in case of like risk appetite, this is a configurable and kind of customizable feature where we can use information from your risk guideline or your underwriting guidelines. We can look at like ratings engines, so kind of call your rating spreadsheet or models in order to get some information to determine if it's within your risk appetite, and then kind of give you an idea of, is this something you're interested in or not? So if you look at this item, for example, we can see it's quote ready, so the system has already kind of determined that you have the right information within it, meets your guidelines, so we kind of ran an agent that determined that it has all the necessary information. It's a region that you cover. There's the broker, you have a relationship with them. All that information is kind of checked, and then we give you a next proposed action, which is to send the submission downstream to an underwriter for final review. So in this case, you have all the data. But let's go actually take a closer look at the information here. So you also have the ability to just see all the information that was kind of extracted from this submission. So from the email, we got some of the key pieces of information, but as well as we've enriched the information itself with information from our enrichment services. So for example, knowing the property address, we're able to go pull in extra information around the square footage, the fire station, and like this is fire station. So we can enrich the submission as well. So we're not limited only to information within the documents. We can actually go and fetch more information as well. And then similarly, we have a portion of the workflow that calls up to an agent that will talk to your ratings model. It could be a spreadsheet, it could be using an actual rating engine if you have one, or we can kind of use a more bespoke option as well within the platform to do the similar stuff, and then get some premium information just to get started and helping with the triage. And ensure that we have required documents that lost run. Any correspondence, so in this case, there was 2 emails that were sent with this item. So the first email initiated the submission, but then realizing there was some lost run history missing, and that secondary email was sent in. The platform will automatically merge all these items together, detect that they're for the same submission, and then append the information together and build up the submission field information from there. So it's all tracked, everything is linked together. Any documents that were sent, including attachments, are attached to the submission itself. And then we log all information, for example, like new emails that are sent in, changes to the fields, all that information is actually tracked within this history tab. And that allows you to keep an audit history of what happened to the submission. Everything I'm showing here is available through APIs, can be pulled or sent to a downstream system, so it's not locked into our environment or our workspace. Then the final important or interesting piece is, if you want to do some interrogation and just ask for information, or you're having a question such as so if I'm just asking about a specific field. So you can also interact with the submission using GenAI, and it has a all information about the submission itself and all the context, so it's able to actually pull information from the document. In this case, it kind of pulls information from the description of operation within the application form. So all of that is driven by our Agentic platform and kind of uses our internal systems to build a context, kind of inform the LLM of what you're looking at, so it can really target and answer like very pinpointed question about the submission itself. So kind of stepping back, so then the question is, how do you actually customize and change some of the information? For example, all the fields that are available within the submission, you may have a very different field. Your line of business might require you to look at the other enrichment or other validation that you need to do. So we're going to go and look at kind of the builder persona and the builder tools that we have for this. So everything here, just so we're clear, everything here can be customized and adapted to your needs. So you're not tied to any of these fields if they're not necessary for your purpose or your use case. So then let's go look at how to actually put this together. So now we're going to switch over to what we call our Agent Studio and our ability to create agents and modify them. The first thing to note is we have a gallery that offers you a lot of options for existing agents. So like if you want to use like some agents for specific, for some specific needs. So for example, if you want to kind of start out with an agent that might already have most of the detailed fields that you need, you can just start from here. The other option that you have is to craft your own. So this is a workflow. This canvas orchestrates a set of steps. The first step, really important, is getting the documents, so the input, processing them, putting them in a structure that is able to be used by the agents. So like we take all the PDF document, Excel, get the contents out, make it available in a format that is more understood by the system. Then a simple classification will like decide what type of documents, like each document within an email, for example, we'll split them out and kind of provide a category for each. Then we can kind of use some agents to do some specific stuff on a subset of the document. So in this case, we're just going to go and add an agent to get basic application information from the email, the slip, and other documents that might have been in the original email. So, sorry. To add agent. All right. So I said earlier, you can start from an existing one, or alternatively, what we're going to do is use a blank slate example. So blank slate are just, they are task specific. They have a goal in mind, so for example, extraction, but at the same time, they don't have pre-filled fields that might have already been set up. So just to, I can show you all the functionality here. We're going to make our own agent. And then we're going to set up a couple field that we want to be using. So and then in this case for this field, we know it's an address. So let's say we'll use our address validation. This gives us some option to actually set, for example, formats and other functionality to ensure that the output from the system is very structured. So if you're sending this to a downstream system, very specific specification on how the data needs to be formatted, you can actually use these tools to kind of make sure that your output is in the right format. So in this case, we'll make sure, like, we might want the confidence to be over 90% for this field. So you can make sure that the system will down select values that are above a certain threshold of confidence for itself. So it'll determine, I'm highly confident I found like this information in a very specific location. Here's the extraction itself, and we'll see this in a second, and then be able to select the most likely answer. And then I'm just going to add the agent. So at this point, I can actually go look at this agent here. And we notice that we had, the fields that we created, but we can actually go and modify or edit the actual prompts for each of these individual fields. So as the system is loading right now, what it's doing is it's actually using some data that I've pre-uploaded to the system to test its extraction. So it's going to give us a view of, how would it do on the specific data that I've uploaded. So I've uploaded a set of documents to the platform to use as an example here, and then it's currently going out and kind of gathering some information about like the extraction. And as of now, all I've given it is the name of the fields. So I've actually not done any more training or labeling. That was not necessary. For the most part, the system is able to kind of gather this information with very basic schema information. And as we can see here, it's actually doing pretty well about picking values. So we can see where in the document it actually found the information. So you can see here, this looks really accurate. It's looking at a specific email and responding with where it found the name insured. So I can actually start accepting some of these values. And what happens is the system then starts calculating metrics on accuracy, precision, and kind of determining how well it's performing on the test data set that you provided it. Let's say there was an issue, I can give it some more information. So prefer name in email body. You can start crafting your own avoid names headers. So if there's some specific prompting strategies that you need to kind of improve the results that you're getting, you can kind of put them here. We do some internal prompting as well. So this is not just like sending a prompt and getting a response. There's a lot of machinery behind this, of how we craft the context that we send to the generative to the LMs, as well as some tuning and optimizations that we do under the hood to make this work. And then there's also some of that tuning that you can configure, for example. So if you want to make sure that it only provides a single field or a response, if it's a group of fields that you want to make sure that are sent together and grouped up as a set of data that for an individual line item, as well as using some advanced vision API to kind of use the structure of the document, or like the visual structure of the document, to improve the results, and things like our global prompt, which can tune an overall agent across all fields for some specific needs. So you can really optimize and improve. So what I like to call like the iterate, test, and commit kind of loop. So you can iterate on each of these prompts, each of these fields, get a really good results, ensure that you have the right accuracy level, then commit these agents, and then finally, if you want to reuse them for yourself, you can export them to your own instance of the gallery and save them and kind of use them for other workflows in the future, and kind of solve multiple lines of business at the same time, or multiple use cases. You can slowly build your own library of agents, prompts, and build your own kind of IP with the tool as well. So everything that we use, we don't use any of your data to train directly or any of our agents or kind of modify that. It's all your own, and then you're just using our platform to build up your own kind of agents to solve your tasks and orchestrate them together with the workflows. So I'll, and then finally, kind of talking about the analytics piece. So whenever with all of the submissions are flowing through our system, we track some information about kind of the extracted field within your environment. So you can actually kind of drill down and use filters and other functionality to actually zoom in on a certain portion of the flow of data that comes through your platform, and then start answering some questions like, how are individual underwriters doing? I'm getting a lot of submission from this broker. Like, are they taking a long time to actually get processed? So drive down time to quote, for example, and make sure you understand if there's some problem areas, as well as zooming out and kind of overall like seeing how your pipeline of items that are flowing through is doing, and being able to kind of take some strategic decisions around it. So I'll stop there.
Awesome, thanks, Nick. Really, really good stuff there. And I think now we'll transition over to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So if you do have questions, again, just a reminder, use the chat functionality within GoToWebinar, and we'll be sure to get those. But to start, I have a first question here. Maybe I'll tee up for you, Tom, and then Nick, feel free to chime in afterwards. We're already using a legacy IDP solution. What's the transition like to use an agentic decisioning platform like Indico? What's the learning curve look like? I don't know, Tom, if you want to start with your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think that there's a tremendous amount of what we'll call horizontal technology in the market today and has been for a long time, whether it's the real legacy OCR players who then became IDP players, and even horizontal Gen AI offerings from the big hyperscalers, Google, AWS, Microsoft, et cetera. So no doubt there's an access to a tremendous amount of good technology out there. I think the challenge is for any given industry, and specifically in insurance, is how much context the vendor, in this case us, how much context they bring to you in terms of a deep understanding of your problem, number one, and number two, how the vendor has tailored their product to meet those specific needs. And for example, Nick showed the out-of-the-box gallery. We've spent millions of dollars and hundreds and thousands of hours building features that are specific to insurance. And so if you use a horizontal technology, that's going to be frustrating because you're going to have to do all that work. So with Indico, all of that is built inside of Indico, of course, very, very high fidelity document extraction technologies and normalization and validation, and we've added data enrichment. So I think that context is critical when you're evaluating who to partner with.
And maybe a follow-up question for you, Nick. Another one here in the chat around build versus buy. So this question is, we have folks internally who are pushing to build a solution similar to Indico. Any advice you can give in terms of bringing a message back to the IT team to fight on that front?
Yeah, so I think one of the benefits of using a platform in Indico is just our experience, having seen several kind of like our at-bats, or like having seen several of these transformations, and kind of we've been able to build up this platform with a lot of the normal kind of challenges you'll face early on. Everything from data preparation to working with LLMs. So a lot of that is built in. At the same time, we're not preventing anyone from, like we saw earlier, like building and customizing these. So there's a lot of tooling access for those teams to use to tune and optimize with our system. And there's some stuff beyond that on a technical level that we can talk about as well, where integration with anything they have internal can help. So I think the main message there is that we're not trying to completely like prevent them from kind of being involved in the process at all and like customizing this. As a technical person myself, I kind of like having some control on how things work. So there's a lot of that as part of the platform itself. And but the thing they'll gain from it is not having to solve a lot of the really annoying problems that you get along the way. So we've put in a lot of time over, like I've been working on this product for over 8 years, on really making this platform work well at scale, work well with the type of data that people will see in the industry, the data format issues that you might face, working with LLMs, optimizing usage of LLMs. So that is like a significant amount of engineering, and to try to replace that, you're looking at several years of effort to kind of get to the same level. So we give you a massive head start here, while still giving you a lot of access to tune it and optimize to your needs.
Maybe a follow-up, Tom, heading in a bit of a different direction here. This question is around the topic of AI governance, and it looks like this attendee has a new charter internally around building out an AI governance function, and they're asking if we've had any experience in helping other customers sort of go down this path and kind of what that looks like. And maybe a follow-up adding to that, sort of what Indico does from an explainability, auditability perspective as well.
Yeah, this has been sort of part of our ethos since day one. I'm thinking back, Nick referenced the years that have gone into building this product. When we first launched the version 1 of this product, we got a Gartner Cool Vendor recognition for the explainability piece in particular. So, it's an ethos here at Indico that we always like to say no black boxes, and that's become even more important now. So I would say that in the last 6 months, especially, we've gone through several AI governance processes with customers where they've had to set up, which many of the state regulations now require, a specific AI governance board within the company that is chartered with evaluating new AI solutions that they're going to deploy. And so we've successfully gone through that multiple times now without issue, right? So I can't think of a single one where the board, had major issues or blockers or rejected the application. So it's very difficult to retrofit. You have to have this this direction and this strategy built in from day one, which we have, both in terms of the product tooling, how you generate your audit trail and make that part of any kind of AI explainability or governance dashboarding, and then the policies and procedures to support, as we do, our customers, in getting through these AI governance boards so they can successfully deploy these technologies and take advantage of them.
Nice. And then maybe a final question for you, Tom. We talked about how this is a strategic inflection point for the industry. Can you unpack what makes this moment different from past waves of insurance innovation, or maybe just technology innovation overall?
Yeah, I think like many inflection points, it's never one thing, right? It's the combination of several things that come together to generate the need to behave differently, to think differently. This is not the first one, right? We had certainly the arrival of the PC, the arrival of the internet, the explosion of mobile phones, and now we have this inflection point, which is the maturity of AI, the power of the compute we have all available to us, and the application space. Combine that with the market dynamics specific to insurance that we talked about, transition from a hard market to a soft market, growing complexity, and growing competition, the need to make sure you're not left out and experiencing adverse selection because you haven't adopted the business and adopted these technologies for your business. All those are coming together. It's a very difficult time to be, on the operations side of an insurance company. There's a lot to think about to, both service your customer, grow your book of business, and remain competitive.
Awesome. Well, good. I think that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Wanted to thank everyone again for joining us. As a reminder, we will send out the recording within the next 24 hours. Any questions we didn't get to, we'll make sure to answer in our next newsletter. So again, thank you for joining. Thank you to our guests, Nick and Tom. Appreciate it. And hopefully we will talk to you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right. See ya.